It's doing triage.
Yeah.
So your brain says, all right, guys, we just have to triage this and begin to triage calories for a brain. And like specifically glucose. Your brain, for those of you who don't who just dig back into basic biochemistry, your brain doesn't use fat. Okay, your brain uses glucose and some ketones at moments of stress, but your brain doesn't use fat. So as a result, you really have to maintain your glucose levels above a certain level for your brain to function. And so it begins to triage all kinds of things to ensure that the command and control center of the brain continues receiving glucose.
Mhm, mhm. So we have comparable mutations in the leptin gene in humans that we see in this OB mouse. They have, you said it, phenocopies. So they are very obese, and you just described how they have this voracious pathological hunger. I'm guessing this is a very rare mutation.
Yeah. So in humans, so it was first so the people who identified the first leptin mutations were I mean, he just retired as head of the department, but my head of department for a long time, Steve Ratley, and his at the time clinical fellow Sadaf Faruqi, and they identified the first kids with leptin deficiency in 1997. Now, since 1997, there've probably only been less than 100 families worldwide with mutations within leptin. Further up the pathway is very different, but within leptin, and maybe an equal number of patients with leptin receptor mutations, roughly. So incredibly rare, by no means a common cause of obesity.
So the discovery of this mutation, it was a significant mutation because it led to all this sort of path of discovery that we've started to discuss a little bit. But certainly, this one mutation isn't going to explain something like the obesity epidemic that humans are experiencing, because most obese people don't have this particular mutation. I want to ask you now a little bit more about genetics as it relates to obesity and adiposity. What can you start to tell us about the genetics there and other mutations and other genes that we think are linked to one's propensity toward obesity and high fat deposition? They might not be as dramatic as this leptin receptor mutation, but are there other genes or a strong genetic component here that we should know about?
So there, I mean, I guess you could almost think about it in two different ways. There are very extreme cases of obesity, and there's more subtle changes like normal distribution of body weight. Sticking with the extreme obesity cases, they eventually overlap. But speaking about the extreme obesity cases, the vast majority of single gene or at least very, very strong genetic drivers for obesity lie within this leptin melanocortin pathway throughout the entire pathway.
Mhm.